I need you to step off this aircraft." The words hit the air like a gavel. Captain Derek Halloway stood in the first-class aisle, arms crossed, silver hair catching the overhead lights. He wasn't asking. He was commanding. Jordan Blake looked up from her book. Seat 2B, window side. Boarding pass validated. Ticket paid in full. She met his eyes without blinking. "I have a ticket for this seat. Before we see how a federal agent dismantled this pilot's career in under 2 hours, tell me where you're watching from. Comment your city below. And if you've ever been judged for simply existing somewhere, hit that subscribe button." Now let's rewind to how this started. 6 hours earlier, Jordan Blake walked through JFK Terminal 4 with 1 carry-on bag and 0 patience for delays. Liberty Sky Flight 914, New York to London, departure 6:15 p.m. Her encrypted tablet carried intelligence briefings classified 3 levels above top secret. Her mission timeline allowed no room for error. Get to Heathrow. Brief MI6. Coordinate Joint Task Force on emerging cyber threats. Return stateside in 72 hours. Simple, clean, covert. She dressed for invisibility. Dark blazer over plain white tee, well-fitted jeans, comfortable sneakers. No designer labels. No jewelry except her mother's wedding ring on her right hand, a simple gold band worn smooth by decades of hospital shifts and clasped hands during prayer. Security waved her through pre-check without incident. She bought bottled water at Hudson News and declined the cashier's attempt at small talk. Professional courtesy, nothing more. She had 40 minutes before boarding. She found a quiet corner near Gate 17, pulled out her worn paperback copy of Invisible Man, and read the same passage she always read before flying. "I am invisible, understand, simply because people refuse to see me." The gate agent called Zone 1. First class. Jordan closed the book, tucked it into her bag alongside the tablet, the backup battery, and the leather case she hoped she wouldn't need today. She walked down the jetway, turned left into first class, counted rows, 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B. Her seat, window, perfect. The cabin smelled like leather and expensive cologne, soft lighting, wide seats, extra legroom. She'd paid for this seat with her own credit card, not bureau funds. Operational security. She needed space to work, privacy to think, and a buffer between herself and curious eyes. She placed her bag in the overhead bin, settled into 2B, and adjusted the air vent. Cool air hit her face. She exhaled slowly. The flight attendant approached. "Good evening. May I offer you champagne before departure?" The woman wore a crisp uniform, blonde hair pulled back, tight name tag reading Ashley Morrison. Her smile was practiced, professional, and didn't quite reach her eyes. "Just water, please." Still not sparkling. Ashley nodded and moved on. Jordan noticed the omission. Ashley greeted the man in 1A by name, called the woman in 3C Mrs. Fletcher. But Jordan received no name recognition, no personal touch. She'd seen this before. The invisible passenger, present but not acknowledged. Occupying space, but not belonging. A younger flight attendant appeared, Hispanic, early 20s, dark curls escaping from her regulation bun. Her name tag said Rosa Delgado. She carried a tray of water glasses. "Still water, right?" Rosa asked, smiling warmly. Jordan looked up. Rosa had actually listened. "Yes, thank you." Rosa set the glass down with care, met Jordan's eyes. "Let me know if you need anything else." "I will. Thank you, Rosa." Rosa walked back toward the galley. Ashley watched her go, a small frown creasing her forehead. Jordan noted the dynamic. Senior attendant, junior attendant, tension already visible. Other passengers boarded. First class filled slowly. Seat 3. A, an older white man, late 60s, expensive suit, Wall Street Journal tucked under his arm. He ordered bourbon before sitting down. The flight attendant called him Judge Cross. Bernard Cross. Retired federal appeals court judge if Jordan's memory served correctly. She'd read one of his landmark civil rights opinions in law school. Seat 4, C, a young Latina woman designer carry-on phone already out filming herself for what looked like Instagram. Mia Torres, based on the luggage tag visible when she hefted her bag overhead. Influencer type, travel blogger. Perfectly curated aesthetic. Seat 5, B.A. white man in his 40s laptop open before he even sat down, reporter's notebook visible in his shirt pocket. James Lockhart. Jordan recognized him from his byline photo. Tech journalist for a major outlet. Wrote critical pieces about corporate accountability. Seat 2C directly across the aisle from Jordan. An Asian American woman in her 30s tailored suit, legal briefs spread across her tray table before takeoff. Diamond wedding ring. Expensive watch. Attorney, clearly. She caught Jordan's eye and nodded professional acknowledgement. Jordan nodded back. The cabin door remained open. More passengers trickled in. Business travelers, honeymooners, a teenager with expensive headphones. Then he appeared. Captain Derek Halloway entered first class from the cockpit like a politician working a fundraiser. Tall, broad-shouldered, silver hair perfectly styled. 51 years old but looked 45. His uniform was immaculate. His tie knotted with military precision, his wedding ring gleaming as he shook hands with passengers. Judge Cross, always a pleasure. How's retirement treating you? Bernard looked up from his newspaper. Derek. Fine, fine. You keeping this bird in the air every time. Halloway laughed, warm and practiced. He moved on. Stopped at 1A. Mr. Patterson, good to see you again. How's the merger going? The businessman smiled. Can't complain. You'll get us there on time, I always do. He worked the cabin. A joke here, a question there. He knew names, remembered faces, referenced previous flights. The perfect captain. Competent, charming, in control. Then his eyes landed on Jordan. She felt the shift. The pause, the calculation. He was mid-laugh with someone in row 4 when his gaze slid to her. The laugh continued, but something behind his eyes changed. A flicker of assessment. His smile stayed fixed, but his posture adjusted. Shoulders back, chin up. He didn't greet her. He walked past, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Expensive. Too much. He glanced down at her. 1 second. 2. His eyes scanned her clothing, her book, her seat number. He filed something away in his mind. Jordan didn't look up. Not yet. She tracked him in her peripheral vision, watched him proceed to the cockpit door, pause, turn back. Look at her again. Behind him, a younger man emerged. First Officer Kyle Brennan, late 30s. Caucasian. Shorter than Halloway's slimmer-build nervous energy. He followed Halloway's gaze, saw Jordan glanced back at his captain with a question in his eyes. Halloway leaned close to Kyle. Said something too quiet for passengers to hear, but his voice carried just enough. Check the manifest again. Make sure all seat assignments match boarding passes. Kyle nodded, ducked back into the cockpit. Rosa heard it. She was refilling water glasses near row 3. Her hand paused mid-pour. She looked at Jordan, then at Halloway, then down at her tray. Her jaw tightened. Ashley heard it too. She stood near the galley preparing drinks. Her eyes flicked to Jordan, then away quickly. She said nothing. Halloway disappeared into the cockpit. The door closed with a heavy click. Jordan turned a page in her book, her hands steady, her breathing even. But her mind cataloged everything. The look, the comment, the tone, the witnesses. She'd been here before. Not on this plane, not with this man, but in this moment. The moment when someone with a uniform and a title decided she didn't belong. The moment when assumption became action. She knew how this played out. She'd trained for it, lived it, survived it. But today would be different. Today she had a badge. She just wasn't ready to use it yet. The boarding door closed. The cabin crew began their safety demonstration. Ashley went through the motions mechanically. Rosa performed each gesture with deliberate care, making eye contact with passengers, ensuring everyone paid attention. The plane pushed back from the gate. The engines roared to life. JFK's runways stretched ahead ribbons of concrete under gathering dusk. Jordan closed her book, looked out the window. New York City sprawled below a million lights blinking to life. Somewhere down there, her mother was finishing a shift at Mount Sinai Hospital. Somewhere down there, her goddaughter was probably watching cartoons, waiting for her parents to come home from work. Jordan pulled her phone from her pocket, sent a quick text. "Wheels up. Love you." Her mother's reply came instantly. 3 words. "Love you more." Jordan smiled, slipped the phone into airplane mode, tucked it away. The plane accelerated. G-force pressed her back into the seat. The nose lifted. The wheels left the ground. Liberty Sky Flight 914 climbed into the night sky carrying 184 passengers, 12 crew members, 1 federal agent, and a reckoning 37,000 feet in the making. Jordan saw her reflection in the window. Dark skin, natural hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, tired eyes that had seen too much. The reflection triggered a memory. 13 years ago. Baltimore. Johns Hopkins University. She was 19, high school valedictorian, full scholarship to Howard. But Johns Hopkins had sent her a personal recruitment letter. Visit campus, meet faculty, see if you'd consider transferring. She'd taken the train from D.C., wore her best outfit. A Howard University hoodie, her mother bought her jeans, clean sneakers. She carried her acceptance packet in a folder, proof she belonged. The admissions event was held at the Belvedere Hotel. Historic building, elegant lobby, marble floors, crystal chandeliers. Jordan walked through the doors at 2 p.m., scanned the lobby for signs directing her to the admitted students' reception. A security guard stepped in front of her. White man, mid-50s, thick neck, hand on his belt. "This event is invitation only." Jordan blinked. "I have an invitation, I'll need to see it, and 3 forms of ID. She looked past him, watched 3 white students walk straight past the desk through the doors into the reception. "No questions, no ID checks. I have my invitation right here." She held up the folder. The guard took it, examined it like it might be counterfeit, flipped through pages, checked her name against a list. Took 5 full minutes. Behind her, 2 more white students entered, walked past without stopping. The guard didn't even glance at them. Finally, he handed back the folder. "All right, you can go in." Jordan walked past him. Her hands shook. Not from fear, from fury. Inside, the reception was in full swing. Professors mingling with students. Catered food. Welcome packets. A presentation about Hopkins' commitment to diversity and inclusion. She stayed 20 minutes. Couldn't stomach it. Left. On the train ride home, she called her mother. Her mother listened, didn't interrupt. When Jordan finished, her mother was quiet for a long moment. "Baby," she said finally, "you're going to see this your whole life. People who think the color of your skin means you don't belong. The question isn't if they'll doubt you. It's how you'll prove them wrong." "How do I do that?" "You become someone they can't ignore. You get credentials they can't question, and when they still question you anyway, you remind them exactly who they're dealing with." That night, Jordan researched federal law enforcement careers. FBI, Secret Service, ATF, agencies with power, agencies with accountability. She applied to the FBI Academy the day after graduating from Howard. Got accepted. Top of her class at Quantico. Recruited straight into the counterterrorism division. She'd spent 10 years proving herself, building cases, taking down threats, protecting a country that didn't always protect her. And now, at 32, sitting in seat 2B on a flight to London, she realized nothing had changed. She still had to prove she belonged. The only difference was now she carried proof in her bag. Federal proof, the kind that came with a badge and the full weight of the United States government behind it. She touched the bag at her feet, felt the outline of the leather case. Not yet, she thought. Let him show you who he is first. 10 minutes after takeoff, the seatbelt sign turned off with a soft chime. Passengers stirred, stretched, reached for bags. Rosa and Ashley began beverage service. Jordan pulled out her tablet, encrypted files, briefing documents for tomorrow's meeting. She needed to review threat assessments, coordinate timelines, memorize key intelligence gaps. She worked in silence, absorbed, focused. Footsteps approached. She didn't look up. Not until the footsteps stopped directly beside her row. "Excuse me, miss." Halloway's voice, polite, professional, with an edge underneath. Jordan looked up. He stood in the aisle, arms crossed, blocking the path. Behind him, Kyle hovered near the galley watching. "May I see your boarding pass again?" Jordan set down her tablet. "I showed it at the gate." "I understand, but we've had some irregularities today. Just need to verify." 3 rows up, Bernard lowered his newspaper. Watched. Across the aisle, the attorney woman Diana Wu glanced over. Her legal instincts activated. Jordan reached into the seat pocket, pulled out her boarding pass, handed it to Halloway without comment. He took it, studied it longer than necessary, turned it over, held it up to the light. "Dr. Jordan Blake. What kind of doctor are you, if you don't mind me asking?" "The kind who values her privacy." "Fair enough." Halloway's smile didn't reach his eyes. "It's just that this is a very expensive seat. We like to make sure our premium passengers are properly accommodated." Bernard spoke up. "Captain, is there a problem?" Halloway didn't turn. "No problem, sir. Just standard verification." Jordan kept her voice level. "I paid for this seat with my own credit card. Would you like to see that too?" "That won't be necessary." Halloway handed back the boarding pass. "However, I will need to see a government-issued ID to match this boarding pass. Airline policy." Rosa stopped mid-pour at row 5, looked back toward Jordan's row. In seat 4, C. Mia Torres pulled out her phone, opened Instagram, started filming subtly phone-angled toward the aisle. "I've flown first class dozens of times," Jordan said. "I've never been asked for ID after boarding." "Well, procedures change?" Halloway's voice carried a hint of impatience. "Your ID, please." James Lockhart in 5B opened his voice recorder app. Pressed record, set his phone face down on his tray table. Jordan reached into her bag, past the tablet, past the backup battery, past the leather case with the badge. Her fingers found her wallet. She pulled out her New York State driver's license. Current, valid, photo taken 2 years ago. She handed it to Halloway. He took it with 2 fingers, like it might contaminate him. Held it up to the overhead light, squinted, turned it over, examined the hologram, checked the photo against her face. "This seems inconsistent." Jordan's voice stayed calm. "Inconsistent how the lamination looks worn. Photo quality isn't what I'd expect from a current license." Bernard stood, his full 6'2" height. "Captain Halloway, I've known you for 15 years. What exactly are you doing?" Halloway finally turned. "Judge Cross, with respect, this doesn't concern you." "The hell it doesn't. You just questioned this woman's identification for no legitimate reason." Ashley stepped forward, nervous. "Captain, maybe we should Halloway cut her off. Ashley, return to your duties." Rosa spoke, quiet but clear. "Her ID looks fine to me." Halloway's head snapped toward her. "Rosa, I didn't ask you." Diana Wu closed her legal brief, leaned into the aisle. Captain, I'm an attorney. What you're doing right now could constitute harassment. I'm doing my job, ma'am. Holloway's jaw tightened. Jordan extended her hand. May I have my license back? In a moment. I need to verify something with the gate. Verify what? Whether this ticket was purchased with your own funds or if perhaps someone else made the booking. We've had issues with people using other passengers' miles reward points, stolen credit cards. James Lockhart spoke up. Are you suggesting she stole this ticket? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm following protocol. Bernard's voice went cold. What protocol? I've flown this route 40 times. You've never asked for my ID once. Judge Cross, you're a known passenger. We have your profile in our system. Diana leaned forward. And you're saying Dr. Blake doesn't belong in your system. I'm saying I need to verify her credentials. You have her credentials. In your hand. Holloway looked down at the license. Back at Jordan. I'll hold on to this until we land. Just to be safe. Jordan's voice dropped. That's not how this works. On my aircraft, it is. She met his eyes, steel in her gaze. Captain Holloway, you're making a mistake you'll regret. Is that a threat? No. It's a fact. Mia whispered into her phone, narrating to her Instagram followers. This is insane. The pilot just took her ID and won't give it back. 300 people watching live. Comments flooding in. Bernard sat back down slowly, pulled out his own phone, opened his contacts, scrolled to FAA, Office of Civil Rights. Didn't call yet, but his finger hovered. Holloway pocketed Jordan's license, turned toward the cockpit. We'll sort this out in London, Dr. Blake. Until then, enjoy your flight. He walked away. Kyle followed. The cockpit door closed. Jordan sat perfectly still. Her hands rested on her armrests. Her breathing remained even, but something had shifted in her eyes. Rosa approached, crouched beside Jordan's seat. Whispered, I'm so sorry. He's never done anything like this before. You don't have to apologize for him. Jordan's voice was kind but firm. You didn't take my ID. He did. Is there anything I can get you? Just water? Still. Rosa nodded, stood, walked to the galley. Diana leaned across the aisle. Dr. Blake, I'm Diana Wu, attorney. If you need representation when we land, here's my card. She handed over a business card. Jordan took it, glanced at it. Wu and Associates. Constitutional law. Civil rights litigation. Thank you. I may take you up on that. Please do. What just happened was textbook discrimination. Bernard turned around in his seat. Dr. Blake, I'm Bernard Cross, retired federal judge. I saw everything, and I'll testify to it if needed. I appreciate that, Judge. He's going to regret this. Bernard's voice was quiet but certain. I'll make sure of it. Jordan nodded once, turned back to her window. Outside, darkness had fallen completely. Below, the Atlantic stretched endlessly black and cold. She reached into her bag. Not for the badge. Not yet. For her book. She opened to a marked page. Read the words she'd underlined years ago. I am invisible, understand, simply because people refuse to see me. Like the bodiless heads you see sometimes in circus sideshows, it is as though I have been surrounded by mirrors of hard, distorting glass. When they approach me, they see only my surroundings themselves, or figments of their imagination. Indeed, everything and anything except me. She closed the book, looked at her reflection in the window. They saw everything except her. But they would. Soon. 15 minutes later, Kyle Brennan emerged from the cockpit. He walked down the aisle. stopped at Jordan's row, glanced at the empty seat beside her. "Ma'am, mind if I sit for a moment? It's a free seat." Kyle sat in 2A, folded his hands in his lap. He looked uncomfortable. "Good. I wanted to apologize for the captain. He can be a bit intense about security." Jordan didn't look at him, kept her eyes on her book. That wasn't intensity. That was profiling. Kyle flinched. I don't think he meant it that way. Now she looked at him. Then how did he mean it? Kyle opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. He's just thorough. He didn't ask Judge Cross for ID. He didn't ask anyone else in this cabin for ID. Just me. So what made me special? Kyle had no answer. Diana Wu spoke from across the aisle. "First Officer Brennan, you've been flying with Captain Halloway for how long?" Kyle turned. 8 years. In those 8 years, how many times have you seen him confiscate a passenger's identification? Kyle hesitated. "This is the first time. And in your professional opinion, was there any legitimate security reason to do so?" The silence stretched. Kyle looked at his hands. "I'm a pilot, ma'am. I fly the plane. The captain handles passenger issues." "That's not what I asked." Bernard turned around again. "Kyle, you're a good kid. I've chatted with you on a dozen flights. So I'm going to ask you straight, do you think what Derek just did was right?" Kyle's face went red. I think he was following his instincts. His instincts about what Kyle stood abruptly. "I should get back to the cockpit. We have weather updates to review." He walked away quickly. Didn't look back. Rosa appeared with Jordan's water. Set it down gently. "He's a coward." Jordan took the glass. "Thank you, Rosa." "For the water or the honesty?" "Both." Rosa smiled sadly. "I've been working this route for 2 years. I've seen things. Small things. Comments. Looks. The way certain passengers get treated differently. I never said anything because I needed this job." She paused, looked at Jordan directly. "But I'm saying something now. What he did was wrong. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows it." Jordan felt something shift. An ally. A witness. Someone willing to risk something. "Thank you, Rosa. Don't thank me yet. I haven't done anything brave." "You stood up. That's brave." Rosa nodded, walked back to the galley. Mia leaned forward from 4C. "Excuse me, Dr. Blake." Jordan turned. "I'm Mia Torres, travel influencer. I've been filming this whole thing. I have 500 people watching live right now. Do I have your permission to keep recording?" Jordan considered. Thought about operational security, thought about the mission, thought about the badge hidden in her bag. Then she thought about every black woman who'd been questioned, doubted, dismissed, and had no one watching, no one documenting, no one believing. "Yes, keep recording." Mia's eyes widened. "Really? Really? Make sure you get everything." Mia nodded, turned back to her phone. "You guys, she just gave me permission to document this. We're watching history right now." Comments exploded on her screen. "Get his name. Record everything. This is racial profiling. Call the airline. Call the FAA. Call the news." James Lockhart stood, walked over to Jordan's row. "Dr. Blake, I'm James Lockhart, tech journalist. I'd like to write about this. Would you be willing to speak on record?" "Not yet, but keep your notes. You'll have a story before we land." James smiled grimly. "I'm counting on it." He returned to his seat, started typing. Ashley approached from the galley. She looked stressed, torn. "Dr. Blake, can I get you anything? Food, another drink." "I'm fine. Thank you." Ashley lowered her voice. "I want you to know I think what the captain did was inappropriate. But I can't say anything publicly. I have 2 kids. I need this job. I understand." Ashley's eyes welled up. Do you? Because I feel like a coward. You're here. You're talking to me. That's something. It's not enough. Then do more when it matters. Ashley nodded, wiped her eyes, walked away. The cabin settled into an uneasy quiet. Passengers pretended to read to sleep to work. But everyone was waiting for the next move. It came 20 minutes later. Holloway emerged from the cockpit again. This time he carried a printout. Passenger manifest. He walked directly to Jordan's row. Dr. Blake, I've been reviewing our records. Jordan looked up. And your ticket was purchased only 8 hours before departure. That's unusual for international first class. I had a last-minute work assignment. What kind of work, confidential? Holloway smirked. Convenient. Diana stood up. Captain purchase timing isn't grounds for suspicion. Holloway turned to her. And you are Diana Wu, attorney. And what you're doing is textbook discrimination. Kyle appeared behind Holloway. Captain, we need you back in the cockpit. Weather system developing over the Atlantic. This will just take a moment. Holloway didn't move. Dr. Blake, where exactly do you work? That's personal information. Is it? Because if you're traveling on business, surely you can tell me the nature of that business. No, I can't. Can't or won't both. Bernard stood. His voice carried authority honed by decades on the bench. Derek, you're crossing a line. Stop now before you do something you can't undo. I'm protecting my aircraft, Bernard. From what, a woman reading a book? From security threats. She's not a threat. She's a passenger. Treat her like one. Holloway's face flushed red. Everyone on this plane is subject to my authority. Everyone. And if I determine that someone poses a risk, I have every right to investigate. Based on what evidence? Diana's voice was sharp. You have her boarding pass, her ticket, her ID. What more do you need? I need to know she's who she claims to be. She showed you her license? Licenses can be faked. The cabin went silent. Mia gasped audibly. Into her phone. Did he just say her ID is fake? 800 viewers now? This is blowing up. James typed furiously. Twitter thread already at 15 tweets. Tagging Liberty Sky Airlines. Tagging FAA. Hashtag started. Hashtag Liberty Sky discrimination. Jordan's voice cut through the tension. Say that again. Holloway blinked. What you said, licenses can be faked. Are you accusing me of carrying fraudulent identification? I'm saying it's possible. Based on what? Based on my experience. Your experience with what, fake IDs or black passengers? The cabin erupted. Bernard. Oh, Derek. Diana. That's it. That's the line. James, I'm quoting that. Directly. Mia. 1,700 viewers. This is viral. Holloway backpedaled. I didn't mean it that way. How did you mean it? I meant that sometimes people... He stumbled. People try to circumvent our security protocols. Which people? The silence was damning. Kyle grabbed Holloway's arm. Captain, please. We need to return to the cockpit. Holloway shook him off. I'll return when I'm ready. He turned back to Jordan. Until I'm satisfied that your credentials are legitimate, I'm keeping your ID. And if you have a problem with that, you can file a complaint after we land. Jordan stood slowly. She was 5'7". He was 6'1". But somehow she seemed taller. I'm giving you one more chance, Captain Holloway. Return my property, now. Or what? Or you'll find out what happens when you cross a line you can't uncross. He laughed. Actually laughed. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you. He pulled her license from his pocket, held it up. This piece of plastic, this is what you're so worried about. That's my legal identification. And I'll give it back when I'm satisfied it's real. It is real. We'll let London authorities determine that. Bernard moved into the aisle. Derek, give her the damn ID. Holloway's control was slipping. Everyone could see it. The passengers, the crew, Kyle. But he couldn't stop. Pride, ego, whatever it was, it drove him forward. You want this so badly. He waved the license. Then admit it. Admit you don't belong in first class. Admit you somehow got upgraded or used someone else's miles or conned your way into this seat. Rosa stepped forward. Captain, stop. Ashley covered her mouth with both hands. Diana pulled out her phone, started recording. Judge Bernard Cross drew himself to full height. Derek Holloway, I am ordering you as a federal judge to return that woman's identification immediately. You have no authority on this aircraft, Bernard. I have moral authority and legal expertise, and I'm telling you right now what you're doing is criminal. Holloway's hand tightened on the license. Fine. You want it. He bent it. The laminate creaked. Jordan's voice dropped to ice. Don't. Holloway met her eyes and snapped the license in half. The crack echoed through first class like a gunshot. He tore it again and again. 4 pieces. Dropped them at her feet. Problem solved. We'll sort this out with airport security in London. Until then, stay in your seat. And stay quiet. He turned, walked toward the cockpit. Jordan reached into her bag. The plastic fragments lay at Jordan's feet like broken promises. She stared at them. 4 pieces of her driver's license. State seal torn through the middle. Her photo split in half, her name severed. The cabin was silent. Not the comfortable silence of sleeping passengers or focused readers. This was the silence of witnesses holding their breath, the silence before thunder. Rosa knelt carefully, gathered the pieces with trembling fingers. She placed them in an air sickness bag, sealed. It handed it to Jordan without a word. Jordan took it, set it on her tray table. Her hands didn't shake. Her breathing remained steady, but something in her expression had calcified, hardened, transformed. She reached into her bag. Not for the badge, not yet, for her phone. Bernard turned in his seat. Dr. Blake, I witnessed that. I'll testify. Diana Wu held up her phone. I recorded it. Video evidence with timestamp. James Lockhart typed rapidly. Article going live in 10 minutes. Captain Derek Holloway, Liberty Sky Flight 914, destroyed passenger's identification without cause. Mia whispered into her Instagram live. 2,000 viewers. You all saw it. He ripped up her ID. This is criminal. Ashley backed against the galley wall, hands over her mouth, eyes wide. Rosa sat down hard in a jump seat, put her face in her hands. Kyle stood frozen in the cockpit doorway, watching Holloway disappear into the flight deck, watching Jordan's stillness, caught between duty and conscience. Jordan opened her phone, scrolled through encrypted contacts, found the number she needed, pressed call. It rang once. A voice answered. FBI Operations Center, Secure Line 7. Authenticate. Jordan's voice was calm. Echo, 7 Tango Baker, 9. Agent Jordan Blake, badge 78429. I need Assistant Director Rodriguez. One moment, Agent Blake. The cabin listened, every passenger leaning forward. Even those who'd been pretending not to watch were watching now. Click. Agent Blake. Carmen Rodriguez's voice came through clear and sharp. We've been monitoring social media. Are you secure? I'm secure, ma'am. But I need to report an incident. I've been detained, harassed, and had my federal identification destroyed by the aircraft captain. Destroyed, physically torn apart in front of 40 witnesses. Silence on the line. Then, did he know you were FBI? No, ma'am. I haven't identified myself yet. Then he assaulted a civilian passenger and destroyed government property. Rodriguez's anger was controlled but unmistakable. "What's your status?" "I'm still in my seat." The captain returned to the cockpit. First Officer Kyle Brennan witnessed everything. "Can Brennan fly the plane without Holloway?" "Yes, ma'am. He's rated and current." "Then I'm authorizing you to relieve Holloway of command under Title 49, Section 44,902. You have federal authority on that aircraft. Use it. Understood. I'm coordinating with our London office now. You'll have a full reception team at Heathrow, law enforcement, federal prosecutors." This man doesn't walk away. "Ma'am, there's something else. This entire incident was live-streamed. It's gone viral." Rodriguez sighed. "Then this becomes a public accountability case." "Good. The Bureau will support you fully. Complete your mission. We'll handle the fallout." "Yes, ma'am." "And Jordan, I'm sorry this happened, but I'm not sorry about what comes next." The line went dead. Jordan lowered her phone, looked at the sealed bag containing her shredded ID, looked at the cockpit door. Not yet. Let him think he won. Let him settle into his victory. Let him believe his uniform and his rank made him untouchable. She'd learned patience at Quantico, in interrogation rooms, on stakeouts, waiting for targets to incriminate themselves fully before moving. Holloway wasn't done incriminating himself. She could feel it. Bernard leaned into the aisle. "What happens now?" "Now," Jordan said quietly, "we wait." "For what?" "For him to come back." "He will. Men like him always do. They can't help themselves." Bernard nodded slowly. "And when he does, then everyone will see exactly who he is." 15 minutes passed. Rosa brought Jordan fresh water, set it down without speaking. Their eyes met. Rosa nodded once. Solidarity. Ashley approached hesitantly. "Dr. Blake, I'm so sorry. Don't apologize for him. I should have stopped him sooner. You can stop him now. Tell the truth when investigators ask." Ashley's eyes filled with tears. "I will. I promise." Mia refreshed her Instagram. 3,000 viewers. Comments flooding faster than she could read them. "Liberty Sky stock dropping. Call the FAA. This is discrimination. Fire that pilot. We're all witnesses." James's article posted. Headline: Liberty Sky captain destroys black passenger's ID in shocking display of bias. Within minutes, it had been shared 4,000 times. Diana emailed the video to her law partner. Subject line: Federal Civil Rights Case. Plaintiff unknown. Defendant about to be very famous. The cabin buzzed with quiet energy. Passengers whispered. Phones glowed. Social media caught fire. And in the cockpit, Derek Holloway had no idea the world was watching. Jordan closed her eyes, leaned back, let the hum of the engines wash over her. Another memory surfaced. Quantico. 9 years ago. FBI Academy interview. She'd been 23, fresh out of Howard University, psychology degree, perfect GPA, LSAT scores that would have gotten her into any law school in the country, but she didn't want law school. She wanted a badge. The interview panel sat across a metal table in a windowless room. 3 agents, 2 white males in their 50s. 1 black woman in her 40s, special agent in charge, Nicole Davis. Ms. Blake, the first interviewer, said you could have gone anywhere. Yale Law offered you a full ride. Why the FBI? Jordan met his eyes. Because I've spent my life watching people abuse small amounts of power. I want to make sure people who abuse real power face consequences. The second interviewer frowned. Can you give an example of this small power abuse being stopped by campus security at my own university library, being followed in stores by employees who assumed I was stealing, being asked if I work somewhere when I'm clearly a customer. Every single one of those people had a uniform or a position that made them feel entitled to treat me as suspect. Agent Davis spoke. "And you think the FBI is different?" Number Jordan didn't hesitate. "I think the FBI has the power to enforce accountability, and I want to be part of making sure it does." The panel exchanged glances. Ms. Blake, the first interviewer, said the Bureau has a complicated history with civil rights. "We've made mistakes. Some would say we still do. I know the history. I also know that change happens from inside, not outside. I can protest from the street, or I can investigate from a desk. I choose the desk." Agent Davis smiled slightly. "You understand this job will put you in impossible positions. You'll face bias from suspects, from witnesses, from colleagues. You'll be questioned more than your white counterparts. You'll have to work twice as hard for half the recognition. I already do. At least with a badge, I'll have authority backing me up." The interview lasted 2 hours. They pressed her on scenarios, tested her reasoning, challenged her motivations. At the end, Agent Davis walked her out. In the hallway away from the others, Davis stopped. Off the record, she said, "Why do you really want this?" Jordan hesitated, thought about lying, decided against it. "My mother is a nurse. She's worked at the same hospital for 30 years. She's been passed over for promotions 7 times. Every time they gave the job to someone less qualified, someone white. She never complained, never sued, just kept her head down and did her job." Davis listened. When I asked her why she didn't fight back, she said, "Baby, I fight by surviving. You'll fight by succeeding. Be so good they can't ignore you. Get so much power they can't dismiss you. And you think an FBI badge is that power? I think it's a start." Davis nodded slowly. "You're in. What the panel will deliberate for form's sake. But you're in. I'm overriding any objections. We need agents like you." Jordan felt tears prick her eyes. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This job will break your heart 100 times. It will make you question everything. But if you survive it, you'll change lives. I'm ready." "No." Davis smiled sadly. "You're not. No one ever is. But you will be." Quantico training was hell. Physical conditioning, firearms qualification, tactical scenarios, legal procedures, interrogation techniques. Jordan finished top 10 in her class, got recruited straight into counterterrorism. Her first case tracking a domestic extremist cell planning attacks on government buildings. She spent 8 months undercover, gained their trust, documented their plans, brought down the entire network. No media coverage, no public recognition, just a notation in her file and a quiet thank you from her supervisor. That was the job. Invisible work, silent victories, justice without applause. She'd accepted that. But this moment on this plane, this wasn't about silent victory. This was about visible accountability. This was about making sure Derek Halloway's abuse of power didn't stay hidden, didn't get excused, didn't disappear into the quiet machinery of privilege protecting itself. This was about every black woman who'd been questioned, dismissed, humiliated, and had no badge to protect her. Jordan opened her eyes. The badge was in her bag. Soon it would be in her hand. And Derek Halloway would learn the hardest lesson of his career. 30 minutes into the flight, Halloway emerged from the cockpit again. This time he didn't come alone. Kyle followed him, reluctant, uncomfortable. Ashley met them in the galley. Halloway spoke loudly enough for passengers to hear. "I want both of you to monitor the passenger in 2B. If she attempts to leave her seat, access her bag, or communicate with other passengers, notify me immediately." Rosa stopped mid-service. "Excuse me, You heard me. Keep an eye on her. Captain, that's not standard procedure. It is now. Rosa set down her tray. No. Holloway turned slowly. What did you say? I said, no. I'm not going to surveil a passenger who's done nothing wrong. Then you're refusing a direct order. I'm refusing an illegal order. There's a difference. The cabin went silent. Every passenger listening. Ashley looked between Rosa and Holloway. Captain, maybe we should discuss this privately. There's nothing to discuss. Holloway's voice rose. I give orders. Crew follows them. That's how this works. Rosa didn't back down. Not when the orders are wrong. Holloway's face flushed red. You're putting your job on the line here. Then I guess I'm putting my job on the line. Bernard stood up. Captain Holloway, what you're asking these flight attendants to do is harassment. It's also potentially illegal under FAA regulations regarding passenger rights. Judge Cross, I've explained this isn't your concern. It became my concern the moment you started violating that woman's civil rights in front of me. I'm not violating anything. I'm ensuring cabin safety. Diana Wu stood. I'm an attorney. I specialize in civil rights law. What you're doing right now is creating a hostile environment for a passenger based on your personal bias. That's discrimination. It's also actionable. Holloway laughed. Actionable by who, her? She can file whatever complaints she wants. When we land, she'll be detained for questioning. Fraudulent identification, suspicious behavior, refusal to cooperate with crew. Jordan had been silent through all of this, reading her book, calm, controlled. Now she spoke. Captain Holloway. He turned to her. Yes, come here. Excuse me, you heard me. Come here. Let's have this conversation face to face instead of you performing for the cabin. Holloway hesitated, then walked over, stood in the aisle beside her row. What is it you want? Dr. Blake Jordan closed her book, set it on her lap, looked up at him. I want you to admit why you're really doing this. I've explained my reasons. No, you've stated your actions. You haven't explained your reasons, so I'll ask you directly. Why me? You're being disruptive. I'm sitting quietly reading. How is that disruptive? Your presence is disruptive. The words hung in the air. Mia gasped. Into her phone. Did he just say her presence is disruptive? 3,500 viewers now. James typed. Captain Holloway just stated passengers' presence is disruptive. Direct quote. Bernard shook his head. Derek, you need to stop talking. Right now. Holloway realized his mistake. I meant your refusal to cooperate is disruptive. I showed you my boarding pass and my ID. What else should I have cooperated with? You should have answered my questions. What questions? Where I work. What I do. That's not cooperation. That's interrogation. It's standard security screening. Diana stood up fully. Captain, I've flown internationally 200 times. I've never been asked where I work. I've never had my ID confiscated. I've never been threatened with detention. So what makes Dr. Blake different? Holloway looked around, saw every passenger staring at him, saw phones recording, saw Rosa and Ashley both shaking their heads. He started. She's not like our usual first-class passengers. The words landed like a bomb. Bernard closed his eyes. Oh, Derek, what have you done? Diana's voice was sharp as glass. Explain that statement. She's not like your usual first-class passengers. How? She doesn't. Holloway stammered. She doesn't present the typical profile. What profile? Someone who would purchase a first-class ticket. And what does someone who purchases a first-class ticket look like? Captain Holloway's mouth opened. Closed. He knew he was trapped. Anything he said now would be worse than silence, but he couldn't stop himself. Look, I'm just being honest here. We get people all the time trying to game the system. Fake tickets, stolen miles, fraudulent upgrades. You'd be surprised what some people try to pull. Some people. Jordan's voice was quiet. Which people? People who Holloway gestured vaguely. People who don't usually fly in premium cabins. Because they can't afford it, because they don't belong there. The cabin erupted. Passengers stood. Voices rose. Phones held high. Bernard. You just said she doesn't belong. On record. In front of witnesses. Diana. That's explicit discrimination. No dog whistle. No coded language. Just raw bias. James. I'm quoting that directly. Don't belong. His words. MIA. 4,000 viewers. This is everywhere now. Liberty Sky is trending #1. Rosa stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. Captain Holloway, I've worked for you for 2 years. I've looked up to you. I thought you were a professional. I thought you were fair. She paused, wiped her eyes. I was wrong. You're a bigot. And I'm ashamed I didn't see it sooner. Ashley found her voice. I'm writing a formal complaint to the union, to the FAA, to anyone who will listen. Kyle spoke from the galley. Captain, you need to return to the cockpit. Now. Holloway spun on him. You stay out of this. No. Kyle's voice was firm. I've stayed out of it too long. I've heard things over the years. Comments, jokes. I ignored them because it was easier than confronting you. I was a coward. He looked at Jordan. I'm sorry, Dr. Blake. I should have spoken up sooner. Jordan nodded once. You're speaking now. That matters. Holloway looked around the cabin, saw his authority crumbling, saw passengers recording, saw crew members against him, saw the judge, the attorney, the journalist all aligned against him, and in that moment of desperation, he made his final mistake. He turned back to Jordan. You want to know why you really want to know? Yes, because I don't know how you afforded this. He pointed at her seat. Because something doesn't add up. Because people who look like you don't usually sit in first class unless someone else is paying for it, or unless you're using miles you didn't earn, or unless something is off. He stopped, realized what he'd just said. Too late. People who look like you. The words echoed. Every passenger heard them. Every phone recorded them. Jordan stood slowly. She was calm, controlled, but her eyes were fire. Finish your sentence, Captain. People who look like me don't usually. What Holloway's mouth moved. No sound came out. Say it. Say what you really mean. Stop hiding behind procedures and protocols and security concerns. Say it. I didn't. I don't. I'm not. You're not what racist? Because that's what this is. That's what you've been doing since I boarded this plane. Treating me like I don't belong because of the color of my skin. That's not true. Then explain it. Explain why you've questioned me and no one else. Explain why you took my ID and no one else's. Explain why you destroyed my property. Explain it without mentioning how I look, or where you think I belong. Holloway had no answer. Jordan stepped into the aisle, stood face to face with him. I gave you multiple chances to walk away, to apologize, to correct your behavior. You chose escalation every single time. And now you're going to face the consequences. She reached into her bag. Holloway watched her hand disappear inside, saw her pull out a black leather case. Still didn't understand. What is that? This, Jordan said, is what happens when you underestimate someone. She opened the case. Gold badge gleamed under the cabin lights. Federal seal. Eagle wings spread wide. Her voice carried through the cabin like a sentence. Special Agent Jordan Blake, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Counterterrorism Division, badge number 78429. Silence. Absolute. Crushing silence. Holloway's face went white. Kyle gasped. Ashley's hands flew to her mouth. Rosa smiled through tears. Bernard nodded slowly. "There it is," Diana whispered. "Oh, this is going to be good." James's fingers flew across his keyboard. "Breaking Liberty Sky. Captain harassed FBI agent." Mia's voice shook. 5,000 viewers. She's FBI. She's federal law enforcement. That pilot just destroyed a federal agent's ID. Holloway stumbled backward. He couldn't form words. "You're FBI. That's what the badge says. Why didn't you tell me?" "Why should I have to?" Jordan's voice was ice. "Why do I need to flash federal credentials to be treated like a human being? Why does my badge matter more than my dignity?" She took a step forward. "You didn't harass me because I looked suspicious. You harassed me because I'm black, and you couldn't imagine that a black woman belonged in first class unless she'd somehow cheated the system. Another step. You assumed. You profiled. You discriminated. And then you destroyed federal property to assert your authority over someone you viewed as lesser than you." She was directly in front of him now. "And now, Captain Derek Holloway, I am relieving you of command of this aircraft under Title 49 of the United States Code Section 44,902. Federal agents have authority to assume command of any commercial aircraft when the safety or security of that aircraft is compromised by crew actions." Holloway found his voice. "You can't do that. I just did." She turned to Kyle. "First Officer Brennan." Kyle snapped to attention. "Yes, ma'am. You are now acting captain of Liberty Skyflight 914. Return to the cockpit. Do not allow Captain Holloway to touch any controls, access any communication systems, or issue any commands. Is that understood?" Crystal clear, Agent Blake. "Do you accept command?" Kyle looked at Holloway, then back to Jordan. "I do. Then this aircraft is under your authority. Fly it safely to London." "Yes, ma'am." Holloway's voice cracked. "Kyle, you can't. He trained you." Kyle's response was quiet, but final. "I'm sorry, Derek. But she's right. You're done." He walked to the cockpit, closed the door, leaving Holloway standing alone in the aisle, facing a federal agent, surrounded by witnesses, his career in pieces at his feet. The cabin exploded into movement. Passengers stood, phones out, cameras recording. Bernard moved first. He approached Holloway with the authority of 30 years on the federal bench. "Derek, I'm going to say this once. Sit down. Do not speak. Do not move. You have made this situation worse with every word out of your mouth. Stop talking." Holloway looked around wildly. This is entrapment. She set me up. Some kind of FBI sting operation." Diana Wu stepped forward. "Captain Holloway, I'm an attorney. I'm advising you to remain silent. Anything you say right now is being recorded by multiple devices and will be used against you. She's manipulating all of you." Holloway's desperation was visible. "Can't you see? She wanted this to happen. She baited me." Rosa's voice cut through. "You baited yourself." She sat quietly reading a book. "You chose to harass her." Ashley nodded. "The agent didn't do anything wrong." "You did. All of it." Jordan addressed the cabin, her voice calm, authoritative. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this disruption. First Officer Brennan is fully qualified to complete this flight safely. We will maintain our course to London, where federal authorities will meet us on the tarmac. If any of you are willing to provide statements about what you witnessed, investigators will be available. Every hand in first class went up. Jordan continued. Thank you. Ms. Delgado, Ms. Morrison. I need you to secure the fragments of my destroyed identification. They're evidence of a federal crime. Rosa retrieved the sealed air sickness bag from Jordan's tray table, held it carefully. This, she asked. Yes. Keep it sealed. Chain of custody starts now. Your name, the date, the time. Write it on the bag. Rosa pulled out a pen. Wrote Rosa Delgado, Liberty Sky, Flight 914, March 12, 2026, 7:47 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Evidence destroyed driver's license belonging to FBI Special Agent Jordan Blake. She handed it to Jordan. Jordan took it, placed it in her bag. Thank you, Rosa, Agent Blake Bernard said. I'm Bernard Cross, retired federal judge, 9th Circuit Court of Appeals. I witnessed every moment of Captain Halloway's conduct. I'll provide a formal statement and testify if needed. I appreciate that, Judge Cross. Diana approached. Diana Wu, constitutional law attorney. I have video evidence with timestamps. I'm also offering my services pro bono if you choose to pursue civil action. Thank you, Ms. Wu. I'll take your card. James Lockhart stood. James Lockhart, senior tech reporter. My article is already live. 10,000 shares in 15 minutes. This is national news now. Mia held up her phone. Mia Torres, travel influencer. 6,000 people watched this live. The footage is everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit. Liberty Sky's stock is dropping in real time. Halloway sank into an empty jump seat, put his head in his hands. Ashley approached Jordan hesitantly. Agent Blake. I'm so sorry I didn't act sooner. I'll write a statement about everything I saw, everything I heard over the years. Over the years, Jordan's eyebrow raised. Ashley glanced at Halloway. He's made comments before, about passengers, about crew members. Nothing I could prove, just small things that made me uncomfortable. I should have reported them. You can report them now. I will. I promise. Rosa sat down next to Ashley. We both will, together. The two flight attendants clasped hands. Around them, passengers began organizing. An older white woman from seat 6C approached. Helen Park, investigative journalist for CNN. I've been recording audio this entire flight. Captain Halloway's statements are documented with GPS coordinates and timestamps. This will air tomorrow night. A black man from seat 5D stood. Marcus Reed, ACLU senior attorney. Dr. Blake, the ACLU will support any civil rights action you choose to pursue. What happened here is textbook discrimination. A white woman from seat 4A, Sarah Klein, HR director for a Fortune 500. Captain Halloway. If you worked for me, you'd be fired before we landed. No severance, no reference, just gone. The testimonies continued, passenger after passenger, each one adding their voice to the record, each one refusing to stay silent. Jordan felt something shift. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about every person who'd ever been profiled, questioned, dismissed. Every person who'd stayed quiet because they had no power, no platform, no witnesses. Today they had all three. Halloway looked up from his hands. His face was ashen. You people don't understand. I was just doing my job. Bernard's voice was cold. Your job isn't to terrorize passengers. I didn't terrorize anyone. You confiscated her identification without cause. You questioned her right to occupy her seat. You made assumptions based on her race. You destroyed federal property. Which part of that was your job? Derek Halloway had no answer. Kyle's voice came over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, this is First Officer, now Acting Captain Kyle Brennan. We're maintaining our course and altitude. Weather ahead is clear. Estimated arrival at London Heathrow remains 11:45 p.m. local time. I apologize for the disruption. Our cabin crew will continue normal service." The announcement was professional, calm, a stark contrast to the chaos Holloway had created. Rosa and Ashley resumed beverage service, moving through the cabin with quiet efficiency. Passengers thanked them warmly. Several asked for their names, promising to commend them in feedback forms. Mia refreshed her social media. Liberty Sky's official Twitter account had posted a statement, "We are aware of an incident on Flight 914 and are investigating." The replies were brutal. Thousands of comments demanding action, screenshots of the live stream, calls for boycotts. James's article had been picked up by major outlets: CNN, BBC, NBC, The Guardian, Al Jazeera. International coverage. Hashtags trended worldwide. Hashtag Liberty Sky discrimination. Hashtag justice for Agent Blake. Hashtag flying while black. Hashtag fire Holloway. Diana checked her email. Messages from civil rights organizations. Offers of legal support. Requests for interviews. The cabin had become a command center. Witnesses coordinating. Evidence compiling. Justice mobilizing. And at the center of it all, Jordan Blake sat quietly in seat, 2B badge back in her bag, book on her lap, waiting. Not for vindication. She didn't need that. Waiting for London. For federal authorities. For the next phase. Because this wasn't over. This had just begun. The plane flew on through the darkness. Below, the Atlantic stretched endlessly. Above, stars wheeled in their ancient patterns. And inside the cabin of Liberty Sky Flight 914, the consequences of Derek Holloway's choices gathered like storm clouds. Jordan pulled out her encrypted tablet. She needed to document everything while details were fresh. Time, location, exact quotes, witness names. The FBI would want a complete incident report. She typed methodically. Precise. Clinical. Incident report. Liberty Skyflight 914. JFK to LHR date. March 12, 2026. Time of boarding. 18:15. Eastern Standard Time. Initial contact with Captain Holloway. 18:45. Eastern Standard Time. ID. Confiscation. 1912. Eastern Standard Time. ID. Destruction. 1947. Eastern Standard Time. Relief of Command. 1952. Eastern Standard Time. Agent Identification. Special Agent Jordan Blake. Badge number 78429. Subject: Captain Derek Holloway. Liberty Sky Airlines. She documented his statements, word for word. People who look like you don't usually sit in first class, don't belong, each quote a nail in his coffin. Bernard appeared beside her row. "May I sit?" Jordan gestured to the empty seat. "Please." Bernard settled in, pulled out a small notebook. His handwriting was elegant, precise. Judge's notes from decades of trials. "I've been documenting too," he said. "Timeline. Quotes. Witness names. Old habits. Thank you." He studied her. "You're remarkably calm." "I was trained to be. The FBI trains you for this, for hostile situations, for maintaining composure under pressure, for collecting evidence while being targeted." She paused. "They just don't usually train you for the targeting to come from a commercial airline pilot at 37,000 feet. Bernard smiled grimly. "In my 40 years on the bench, I've presided over dozens of discrimination cases. I've read transcripts, reviewed evidence, heard testimony, but I've never actually witnessed it unfold in real time quite like this. What will happen to him? Legally." Bernard tapped his pen against his notebook. "Criminally, he's facing federal charges for destruction of government property. That's 18 U.S.C. Section 701. Up to 6 months in prison, though, he'll likely get probation as a first offense. And civilly, you could sue for civil rights violations under Section 1983, emotional distress, unlawful detention. The airline will settle before trial. They can't afford the publicity of going to court. I don't care about money. Bernard nodded. I know, but you should still pursue it. Not for yourself, for precedent. Cases like this change policy. They create accountability. They make the next pilot think twice. Jordan considered. You're right, Diana appeared in the aisle. I couldn't help overhearing. Judge Cross is absolutely right. A civil case would be powerful, and I'd be honored to represent you. Bernard extended his hand to Diana. Bernard Cross. Diana shook it. Diana Wu. I've read your opinions, Your Honor. Your work on employment discrimination law shaped my entire practice. Good to meet you, counselor. They talked strategy. Legal theories, damages, procedural steps. Jordan listened, absorbing. She'd studied law as part of her FBI training, but these two were specialists. Ashley brought fresh coffee without being asked. Set it down for all three of them. Anything else? We're good, thank you. Jordan smiled at her. How are you holding up? Ashley's composure cracked slightly. I keep thinking about all the times I should have said something. Not just today. Over the years, small moments when I saw him treat people differently. You're saying something now. It feels too late. It's not. Diana's voice was gentle but firm. Your testimony will matter. Pattern evidence shows this wasn't a one-time lapse. This was behavior. Ashley wiped her eyes. I'll tell them everything. Rosa joined them. Brought water for Jordan. Agent Blake. Can I ask you something? Of course. How did you stay so calm? If that was me, I would have screamed, cried. Something. Jordan thought about her answer carefully. My mother taught me something when I was young. She said anger is valid, but strategy is powerful. Feel the anger, but don't let it drive you. Your mom sounds wise. She is. She's a nurse at Mount Sinai. Been there 30 years. She's dealt with this her whole life. Patients who don't think she's qualified because she's black. Doctors who talk over her. Administrators who pass her over for promotions. She taught me that silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the smartest weapon you have. Rosa nodded. I'm going to remember that. James approached with his laptop. Agent Blake, my editor wants to run a follow-up piece. Would you be willing to provide a statement? Not yet. Once we land and I've debriefed with my superiors. But keep your notes detailed. This story isn't over. I figured. He grinned. This is the biggest story I've ever covered. And I've covered billion-dollar tech scandals. Mia appeared with her phone. Agent Blake. My Instagram is exploding. People are asking if you have social media. If you want to make a statement, tell them I'll speak through official FBI channels. Okay. Mia hesitated. Can I just say you're like the coolest person I've ever met? The way you handled this was incredible. I was just doing what I was trained to do. No. Rosa shook her head. You did more than that. You showed all of us what courage looks like. Jordan felt unexpected emotion rise in her throat. She pushed it down. Later. She could process later. Right now, she needed to stay focused. A passenger from row 7 approached. Excuse me, Agent Blake. I'm Dr. Patricia Holmes' psychiatrist. I wanted to offer my professional observation. What you experienced today was racial trauma. Even though you handled it with grace, it still affects you. If you need to talk to someone afterward, I'm available. Jordan took her card. Thank you, Dr. Holmes. I appreciate that. Because here's the thing people don't understand. Dr. Holmes continued. You can be strong and still be hurt. You can be professional and still be traumatized. Taking care of yourself isn't weakness. I'll remember that. The cabin had transformed into something resembling a support group, passengers sharing stories, moments when they'd witnessed discrimination, times they'd stayed silent, regrets and resolutions. A white man from seat 3C stood, addressed the cabin. I'm Tom Harrington. I need to say something. I saw what Captain Halloway did, and I didn't speak up right away. I was uncomfortable, but I told myself it wasn't my business. That was wrong. I should have said something sooner. I'm sorry. Another passenger spoke up. I'm guilty of the same thing. I watched. I was shocked. But I didn't act until others did first. That's complicity. One by one, passengers acknowledged their roles, not self-flagellation, but genuine recognition of how silence enables harm. Bernard watched this unfold with satisfaction. This, he said quietly to Jordan. This is what accountability looks like, not just punishing the perpetrator, but everyone examining their own complicity. Jordan nodded. The FBI trains us that bystander intervention is crucial. One voice can empower others. Silence breeds more silence, and you gave people permission to speak by speaking first. I gave them permission by being myself, by refusing to shrink, by standing up, Diana added, and by revealing your badge at the right moment. That transformed this from a he said, she said into a federal case. Timing mattered. Jordan agreed. If I'd flashed my badge immediately, Halloway could claim he would have treated me differently. By waiting, he showed his true character. James typed rapidly. This is going in my piece, the strategy behind your restraint. The plane hit mild turbulence. Nothing serious, just enough to jostle drinks. Kyle's voice came on. Folks, we're hitting some light chop. Totally normal for this route. Should smooth out in about 10 minutes. Seatbelt sign is on as a precaution. His tone was steady, professional, a stark contrast to the chaos Halloway had created. Rosa secured loose items in the galley. Ashley checked on passengers. They worked as a team, efficient, caring. Halloway remained in the jump seat, head in hands, defeated. Jordan glanced at him once, felt no satisfaction, no triumph, just a deep weariness. She hadn't wanted this, hadn't sought confrontation, had simply wanted to fly to London, do her job, come home. But Derek Halloway had made his choices, and now he would live with the consequences. The turbulence smoothed out. Kyle turned off the seatbelt sign. Jordan returned to her report, typed the final sections. Subject's actions, repeated questioning without cause, confiscation of legal identification, refusal to return property despite multiple requests. Explicit racial profiling statements, physical destruction of federal government property, creating hostile environment for passenger witness, count 43 passengers, 3 crew members, evidence, video recordings, audio recordings, written statements destroyed, D fragments, relief of command, authorized under 49 U.S.C. 44,902 at 1952, Eastern Standard Time. Acting Captain, First Officer Kyle Brennan. Flight status, normal operations maintained. Recommendation, federal prosecution for destruction of government property. Administrative action against pilot's license. Civil rights investigation into pattern of discriminatory conduct. She saved the document, encrypted it, would transmit it securely once they landed. Bernard read over her shoulder. That's a devastating report. It's accurate. It's both. The hours passed. Passengers dozed. Some worked. Some watched movies. Normal flight activities resumed around the extraordinary circumstances. But no one forgot what they'd witnessed. Every person in that cabin had been changed by seeing injustice, by speaking against it, by standing together. Jordan pulled out her paperback, opened to the final chapter. Read Ralph Ellison's words. I am invisible, understand simply because people refuse to see me. She'd been invisible for most of her life. The girl in security's crosshairs. The student questioned at her own university. The agent doubted despite her credentials. But not today. Today, 43 people saw her dignity, her strength, her authority, and they refused to look away. That mattered more than any badge. Note the ID destruction and badge reveal occurred in Act 2, Part 2, E. Act 3 covers the aftermath and consequences in detail. The gold badge gleamed under the cabin lights. FBI, Department of Justice, Federal Authority. Halloway stared at it. His brain struggled to process. The black woman he'd harassed, the passenger he'd profiled, the person whose ID he'd destroyed, was FBI. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. Your words failed him. Your federal law enforcement. Jordan's voice was ice. That's what the badge says, Captain. Why didn't you identify yourself? Why should I have to? I showed you my boarding pass, my driver's license. What more did you need if I'd known? There it is. Jordan's eyes hardened. If you'd known I was FB, you would have treated me differently. But that's the problem, isn't it? You should have treated me with respect regardless of who I am. A badge shouldn't be the price of basic human dignity. Halloway stumbled backward, collapsed into the jump seat. Around them, the cabin buzzed. Passengers leaned into aisles, whispered to each other. Mia narrated into her phone. Guys, she just relieved him of command. An FBI agent just took control of this plane. 7,000 people watching. This is the wildest thing I've ever seen. James typed, breaking FBI agent, removes pilot from command. After harassment incident. Story developing. Diana pulled out her phone, started drafting legal documents, civil rights complaint, discovery requests, witness lists. Bernard smiled. Actual justice, in real time. Rosa and Ashley stood together near the galley. Rosa had tears streaming down her face. Ashley looked shell-shocked. Kyle emerged from the cockpit, stood at attention. Agent Blake, I've notified London Air Traffic Control of the command change. They're coordinating with Heathrow Security. Federal authorities will meet us on the tarmac. Excellent work, First Officer Brennan. Kyle hesitated. Ma'am, I need to say something. I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. I've flown with Captain Halloway for 8 years. I've heard things, small comments, jokes that made me uncomfortable. I should have reported them. You're reporting them now. That counts. It doesn't feel like enough. It's a start. Kyle nodded, returned to the cockpit. Jordan turned to Ashley and Rosa. I need both of you to document everything you witnessed. Times, quotes, actions. Your statements will be crucial for the investigation. We will, Ashley said. Every detail. Rosa added Agent Blake. I just want to say thank you. For standing up, for not backing down, for showing me what courage looks like. You showed courage too, Rosa. You refused an illegal order. That's not easy. It felt easy. Once I saw you standing strong, it felt like the only option. Jordan felt that emotion rise again, pushed it down. Stay professional. Process later. She addressed the cabin. Ladies and gentlemen, I know this has been an unusual flight. I want to assure you that First Officer Brennan is fully qualified to complete this journey. We will land safely in London in approximately 3 hours. Federal authorities will handle this matter from there. A passenger stood, started clapping. Another joined, then another. Within seconds, the entire first-class cabin erupted in applause. Jordan raised a hand. Please. This isn't about me. Bernard's voice cut through. Yes, it is. It's about you refusing to accept treatment that's been normal for too long. It's about you demanding better. That deserves recognition." The applause continued. Jordan sat down, overwhelmed despite her training. Holloway watched from the jump seat, his face a mask of confusion and despair. Finally, he spoke. "This will ruin me." Jordan looked at him. "Yes, it will. My career, my reputation, everything I've built. You ruined it yourself. The moment you decided I didn't belong in that seat, the moment you questioned my credentials, the moment you tore up my ID, every choice was yours. I made a mistake. No. You made choices, repeated deliberate choices, and now you face the consequences." Diana stood. "Captain Holloway, as an attorney, I'm advising you to stop talking. Everything you say is being recorded and will be used in legal proceedings." Holloway looked at her, then at the passengers, then at his hands. He whispered. "I just did what I thought was right." Rosa's voice was sharp. "You thought racial profiling was right? That's not what Holloway started." "Then what?" Ashley interrupted. "What did you think you were doing?" "My job. Your job is to fly the plane." Bernard's voice carried judicial authority. Not to interrogate passengers, not to confiscate property, not to destroy federal identification. You overstepped your authority in every possible way. Holloway had no response. He sat in silence. Broken. James approached Jordan. "Agent Blake, one more question for my article." "How do you feel right now?" Jordan considered. "Honest answer. Please." "Tired. Disappointed, but not surprised. This is what being black in spaces of privilege looks like. Someone always decides you don't belong. The only difference this time is I had a badge to back me up, and if you hadn't had the badge, then I'd be the one being escorted off this plane in London, my word against a captain's. And we all know how that usually ends." James typed every word. The flight continued. Passengers gradually returned to their seats. The extraordinary moment settled into something more subdued but no less significant. Diana worked on legal documents. Bernard reviewed his notes. Mia responded to thousands of comments on her live stream. Rosa and Ashley wrote their statements. And Jordan sat quietly in 2B, looking out at the darkness, thinking about her mother. She pulled out her phone, typed a text. "Something happened on the flight. I'm okay. It might be in the news. I'll call you when I land. Love you." Her mother's response came quickly. "You stood up for yourself, didn't you? That's my girl. Love you more." Jordan smiled. Her mother always knew. An hour passed. Holloway hadn't moved from the jump seat, hadn't spoken, hadn't looked at anyone. Then he started crying. Quiet at first. Shoulders shaking, hands over his face. Rosa noticed first, glanced at Ashley. They shared a look. No pity, just recognition of a man confronting the wreckage of his choices. Holloway's voice came out broken. 28 years. I've been flying for 28 years. No one responded. Never had an incident, never had a complaint. Perfect safety record. Commendations from the airline. Letters from passengers. Bernard spoke quietly. That makes this worse, not better. You had every opportunity to do right. You chose wrong. I have a family, kids, a mortgage. Holloway looked up, eyes red. This will destroy everything. Diana's voice was hard. You destroyed a federal agent's property in front of 40 witnesses. You created this situation. Own it. I didn't mean Holloway's voice cracked. I didn't think that's the problem. Rosa stepped forward. You didn't think. You assumed. You profiled. You acted on bias you probably don't even realize you have. I'm not racist. Holloway said it desperately. I'm not. Ashley shook her head. Captain, I've worked with you for 6 years. I've heard the comments. About passengers. About crew. Little things you probably thought were jokes. But they added up. What comments? Ashley pulled out her phone, opened her notes app, read aloud. Last month, passenger in 3C. You said, I didn't know people like that could afford first class. Remember Holloway's face went pale. 3 months ago, black family boarding. You told me watch them. They probably upgraded themselves illegally. Ashley continued. 6 months ago, Hispanic flight attendant on her first day. You said, make sure she understands English well enough to handle safety procedures. Holloway opened his mouth, closed it. I documented them all. Ashley's voice shook but stayed firm. Every comment, every microaggression, every time you made me uncomfortable, but I stayed quiet because I needed this job. Rosa added, I have my own list. Want to hear it? Holloway shook his head. You made comments about my accent, about my name, about whether I was legal. Every single shift some little comment that made me feel less than. I never meant intent doesn't matter. Impact does. And the impact was making this cabin unsafe for anyone who doesn't look like you. A passenger spoke up. Middle-aged white man from 4B. Captain, I'm a pilot too, retired Air Force. And I need you to understand something. What you did today didn't just hurt Dr. Blake. You hurt every pilot. You made us all look bad. You confirmed every negative stereotype about unconscious bias in aviation. Another passenger stood. I'm a diversity consultant for Fortune 500 companies. I run anti-bias training. And everything you did today is a textbook example of what I teach people not to do. A black woman from row 6 spoke. I'm a physician. I've had patients refuse treatment from me because they assumed I wasn't qualified. I've had nurses question my orders. I've had security stop me in my own hospital. Your actions today reminded me of every single one of those moments. Testimonies poured out, passengers sharing their own experiences with discrimination, with profiling, with being made to feel less than. Holloway listened, each story another weight on his shoulders. Finally, he looked at Jordan. Agent Blake, he struggled. I'm sorry. Jordan met his eyes. Are you, or are you sorry you got caught? I'm sorry I hurt you. But are you sorry for your assumptions? For your bias? For treating me as suspect because of my skin color? Holloway was silent. That's what I thought. Jordan turned back to her window. Diana stepped in. Captain Holloway, anything you say now is on record. I'm advising you again to remain silent. But I need her to understand. She understands perfectly. Bernard's voice was cold. You profiled her. You harassed her. You destroyed her property. What more is there to understand? Holloway's head dropped. His crying intensified. Rosa watched him, felt no satisfaction, just sadness. Sadness that it had come to this. Sadness that he'd learned nothing over decades of flying. Sadness that it took federal intervention to create accountability. The cabin settled into heavy silence. Outside stars wheeled overhead. The plane flew on. And Derek Holloway sat in the ruins of his career, finally understanding the weight of his actions. But understanding came too late. The energy in the cabin shifted as passengers began organizing more formally. Bernard took charge with the practiced authority of a judge managing a courtroom. He stood in the aisle, addressed everyone. Folks, we're witnesses to a civil rights violation. Our statements will matter in the legal proceedings that follow. I'm going to collect names and contact information for anyone willing to go on record. He pulled out his legal pad. Started a list. Within minutes, every passenger in first class had added their name. Business class passengers began appearing at the curtain divider asking to be included. A woman from 8C, I heard everything. I want to help. A man from 10B I started recording when I heard the confrontation. I have audio. The witness list grew. 43 became 50. 50 became 62. Diana created a shared document on her phone, passed it around so passengers could add their statements directly. Times, quotes, observations. James interviewed passengers on record, collected quotes for his follow-up article. Mia coordinated social media strategy. Hashtags, talking points, making sure the narrative stayed focused on accountability, not spectacle. Dr. Patricia Holmes, the psychiatrist, organized a separate list. Passengers who wanted to provide testimony about the psychological impact of witnessing discrimination, the trauma of complicity, the relief of solidarity. Rosa and Ashley worked on their official statements for the airline and FAA. They sat together in the galley comparing notes. Ashley wrote, "Captain Halloway demonstrated a pattern of discriminatory behavior over the 6 years I worked with him. Today's incident was not an isolated event, but the culmination of unchecked bias." Rosa added, "I witnessed Captain Halloway single out Agent Blake based on her race. His actions created a hostile environment not just for her, but for every passenger and crew member who watched it unfold." They showed each other their statements, nodded. This was right. This was necessary. Kyle appeared from the cockpit, spoke quietly to Jordan. "Agent Blake, I'm writing a statement too. About the times I heard Captain Halloway make inappropriate comments and didn't report them. I should have. I'm ashamed I didn't." Jordan's voice was kind but firm. "Write it, submit it, and moving forward speak up sooner." "I will. I promise." A passenger approached. Dr. Elizabeth Chen, professor of sociology at Columbia. "I study discrimination in institutional settings. What happened today is exactly what my research documents. Would you be willing to let me write a case study Jordan considered? If it helps prevent this from happening to others, yes. It will. Trust me." Another passenger, Rabbi David Steinberg. "I've worked in interfaith civil rights coalitions for 20 years. I'd like to organize a community response. Make sure this incident leads to real change." Mia looked up from her phone. "My followers want to know if there's going to be a protest or demonstration." Bernard shook his head. "Not protest, accountability. We channel this energy into legal action, policy reform, and institutional change." Diana agreed. "Exactly. We file complaints with the FAA, the Department of Transportation, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. We push for mandatory bias training for all airline personnel. We make this moment matter beyond this flight." The cabin transformed into a planning session. People exchanging contact information, setting up follow-up meetings, creating accountability networks. This wasn't mob justice. This was collective action. Organized, focused, determined. Jordan watched it unfold, felt something profound. This was bigger than her, bigger than this flight. This was people recognizing their power to demand better. James approached with his laptop. "Agent Blake, my editor, wants to do a live interview when we land. Would you be willing? Let me check with my supervisors first. If they approve, yes." Mia held up her phone. "My platform is yours if you want it. 3 million followers across socials. We can amplify whatever message you want to send. I appreciate that. When I'm ready to speak publicly, I'll let you know." A passenger from row 5 stood, addressed the cabin. "I'm Jonathan Price, Senior Vice President at Delta Airlines. I'm not with Liberty Sky, but I'm ashamed on behalf of the industry. We have work to do. Serious work. And I'm committing personally to pushing for changes at my airline." Another passenger, Margaret Sullivan, FAA Inspector. "I'm off duty, but I'm going on record that I will personally follow this investigation. Someone will be held accountable." The testimonies continued, each person adding their voice, their commitment, their determination that this moment would mean something. Halloway watched from his seat. surrounded by the growing chorus of accountability, shrinking smaller with each statement. Rosa brought Jordan fresh water, sat down beside her. "Agent Blake, can I tell you something?" "Of course." "I almost quit last month. My mom kept telling me to stick it out, that I needed the job, that it would get better. But every shift with Captain Halloway made me feel less than, made me question whether I belonged." Rosa's voice shook. "Watching you stand up today, it changed something for me. You showed me that we don't have to accept being diminished, that we have power, that our dignity matters. Your dignity always mattered, Rosa, with or without my badge. I know that now." Rosa smiled through tears. "Thank you for the reminder." They sat together in companionable silence. Around them, the plane flew on, 3 hours into the flight, 1 hour remaining. London waited ahead, and with it, the next chapter of accountability. Kyle's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're beginning our descent into London Heathrow. Current local time is 11:15 p.m. Weather is clear. We'll be on the ground in approximately 30 minutes. He paused. "I want to thank you all for your patience during this unusual flight, and I want to apologize for the actions of Captain Halloway. What happened today should never happen. Period." Another pause. "For those providing statements, please remain in your seats after landing. Federal authorities will board to coordinate witness interviews. Thank you." The announcement was professional, but underneath genuine remorse. Passengers began preparing, putting away laptops, gathering belongings. But the energy wasn't typical pre-landing bustle. It was anticipatory, purposeful. Jordan pulled out her FBI credentials, checked her phone. Multiple messages from Assistant Director Rodriguez. "London team in place. Inspector from Metropolitan Police coordinating. U.S. Attorney's Office has been notified. Press is gathering." "You okay?" Jordan typed back. "I'm fine. Ready to proceed." Rodriguez, "I'm proud of you. Textbook professionalism under pressure. Quantico should use this as a training case." Jordan smiled slightly. "Thanks, ma'am." Diana sat across the aisle reviewing the legal documents she'd drafted mid-flight. Complaint. Discovery requests. Witness list. 47 pages of meticulous legal argument. She looked over at Jordan. "I'm filing this tomorrow, if you give me the green light." "You have it." Bernard leaned back, reviewed his notes. 30 pages of judicial observations, times, quotes, legal analysis. He'd done this hundreds of times in courtrooms, never expected to do it on a plane. James's article had been updated 3 times, now included passenger testimonies, expert quotes, industry responses. Liberty Sky's stock had dropped 12%. The CEO had issued a statement promising a full investigation. Mia's live stream had ended at 6 hours, 14 minutes. Total viewers over 200,000. Comments 73,000. Shares 41,000. The video had been picked up by major news outlets. CNN, BBC, NBC. International coverage. National. Hashtags continued trending. Hashtag Liberty Sky discrimination. Hashtag Justice for Agent Blake. Hashtag Flying While Black. The conversation had expanded beyond the incident to broader discussions of discrimination in air travel. Civil rights organizations issued statements. NAACP, ACLU, SPLC, all condemning the incident, all demanding accountability. Liberty Sky's corporate offices were in crisis mode. Emergency board meeting called, PR firms engaged, legal teams assembled, and Derek Halloway sat in the jump seat witnessing his career disintegrate in real time. The plane descended through clouds. London's lights appeared below, sprawling, glittering. Jordan looked out her window, felt exhaustion creeping in now that adrenaline was fading. She'd been operating on training and discipline. Now, approaching safety, the emotional toll began to register. She thought about her mother, about the hospital where she worked, about every shift where patients questioned her credentials, where doctors talked over her, where she'd had to prove herself again and again. She thought about her goddaughter. Sweet, bright, brilliant. Who would grow up in a world that would judge her by her skin before her character? She thought about every black woman who'd faced this and had no badge, no witnesses, no recourse. This moment wasn't just about her, it was about all of them. The wheels extended with a mechanical whine. The plane slowed. Kyle's voice. Final approach. Cabin crew, prepare for landing. Rosa and Ashley secured the cabin, checked seatbelts, stowed loose items. They paused at Jordan's row. "Thank you," Rosa said simply. "For what?" "For being who you are." Ashley nodded. "For showing us it's possible to stand up and win." Jordan felt emotion rise again, pushed it down one more time, just a little longer. Hold it together just a little longer. The runway appeared, lights stretching into the darkness. The wheels touched down, gentle, professional. Kyle's skill evident. The plane decelerated, engines reversed, brakes engaged. They taxied, but not toward the terminal, toward a remote stand, away from regular traffic. Through the windows, passengers saw what waited. 2 black SUVs, FBI seals visible. 3 Metropolitan Police cars. A dark van, U.S. Attorney's Office, and 20 figures in suits and uniforms. The reception committee. Holloway saw it too. Put his head in his hands. The plane stopped. Engines powered down. Kyle's voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've arrived at London Heathrow. Please remain seated. Federal authorities will board first." The cabin door opened. Agent Michael Strand entered. Early 50s, Caucasian, no-nonsense demeanor. FBI credentials displayed. Agent Blake Jordan stood. "That's me." Strand approached, extended his hand. "Agent in charge Michael Strand, FBI, Legal Attaché London. Welcome to Heathrow. Wish it were under better circumstances." She shook his hand. "Thank you for coordinating." Behind Strand, 2 Metropolitan Police inspectors entered. 2 U.S. attorneys. 1 FAA investigator. They filled the front of first class. Strand turned to Holloway. "Captain Derek Holloway." Holloway stood shakily. "Yes. You're being detained for questioning regarding destruction of federal property and interference with a federal agent. You'll come with us. I want a lawyer." "That's your right. But you're coming with us either way." 2 officers moved forward. No handcuffs, not yet, but flanking him on either side. Holloway looked at Jordan one last time. "Please, I have a family." Jordan's voice was quiet. "So do I. So does every person you've ever discriminated against. Your family doesn't exempt you from consequences." He had no answer. They escorted him down the aisle, past every passenger who'd witnessed his actions, past Rosa and Ashley, past Bernard and Diana, past Mia's phone still recording. He walked down the aircraft stairs into the British night, into waiting vehicles, into the end of his career. The door closed behind him, and in the silence that followed, Jordan Blake sat back down in seat 2, B, released the breath she'd been holding for 6 hours, and finally allowed herself to feel. Assistant Director Carmen Rodriguez appeared in the cabin doorway. She'd flown from D.C. on military transport, arrived 20 minutes before Flight 914 landed. "Agent Blake." Jordan stood. "Director Rodriguez, I didn't expect you here. When one of my agents is assaulted on duty, I show up." Rodriguez was 46, Hispanic, 5'4", and one of the most respected leaders in the FBI. She'd risen through the ranks through brilliance and grit. "Walk with me." They stepped off the plane onto the tarmac. Cool British air, smell of jet fuel. Behind them, passengers began deplaning under the supervision of federal investigators, each one escorted to a secure area for witness interviews. "How are you holding up?" Rodriguez asked. "I'm okay." "Jordan?" "Truth." Jordan paused. "I'm angry, exhausted, relieved it's over. and worried about what comes next. What comes next is we make sure this matters. Rodriguez stopped, turned to face her. You handled this perfectly. Restraint, documentation, strategic revelation of your credentials. Quantico couldn't have scripted it better. I just did what felt right. That's because your instincts are excellent. Rodriguez smiled. The Bureau is backing you fully. Press conference tomorrow if you're willing. Your choice. I'll do it. This isn't just about me. I know. That's why you're the right person to speak. They walked toward the SUVs, past Holloway being interviewed by investigators. He looked broken, defeated. Jordan felt no triumph, just a deep, tired sadness that it had been necessary. Rodriguez continued. The U.S. attorney is filing federal charges. Destruction of government property. Obstruction of a federal agent. FAA is pulling his license pending investigation. Liberty Sky is in full damage control. And civilly, you'll have your choice of attorneys. Diana Wu seems excellent from what I've heard. She is. Then pursue it. Not for money. For precedent. That's the plan. Good. Rodriguez stopped at the lead SUV. Get some rest. Debrief tomorrow at 0900. Then press conference at 1400 if you're up for it. I'll be ready. I know you will. Rodriguez squeezed her shoulder, a rare gesture of affection from the notoriously professional director. You made us proud today, Jordan. Thank you, ma'am. Rodriguez climbed into the SUV, drove off toward the embassy. Strand approached Jordan. Agent Blake, we have a secure room for your debrief. Whenever you're ready, give me 10 minutes. Take whatever you need. Jordan pulled out her phone, called her mother. It rang twice. Baby. Her mother's voice, familiar and warm. Hi, Mom. I saw the news. Are you okay? I'm okay. It was hard, but I'm okay. I'm so proud of you. Jordan felt tears finally come. I love you, Mom. I love you more, baby. Come home soon. I will. She ended the call, wiped her eyes, straightened her shoulders. 10 minutes was up. Time to finish this. The secure room was a repurposed gate area. Tables set up, federal investigators taking statements. Jordan sat at the center table, gave her official report. 2 hours. Every detail. Every quote. Every moment. Agent Strand recorded it all, asked clarifying questions, took notes. When she finished, he sat back. This is one of the most thoroughly documented civil rights violations I've ever processed. 47 witnesses, video evidence, audio recordings, pattern evidence from crew members. He shook his head. Captain Holloway couldn't have incriminated himself more if he'd tried. He tried pretty hard. Strand smiled slightly. Federal prosecutors are salivating. This is an easy case. Good. The other witnesses are giving consistent statements. Everyone corroborates your account. Several passengers are providing additional context about Holloway's behavior before he approached you. Like what comments he made to other passengers. Microaggressions toward crew members. One passenger overhead him in the cockpit, making a joke about Strand checked his notes. Suspicious passengers in premium cabins. Document all of it. We are. This is going to be a comprehensive case. Bernard appeared in the doorway. Agent Blake. They'd like my statement now. Thank you for waiting, Judge Cross. Wouldn't miss it. This is history. Diana entered next, gave her attorney's perspective. Professional observations, legal analysis, offered pro bono representation officially. Strand took her information. Thank you, Counselor. The FBI will coordinate with you on civil proceedings. James submitted his recordings and notes, signed affidavits authenticating his reporting. Mia provided her video files. Unedited, complete metadata, timestamps synchronized with the aircraft's GPS log. Rosa and Ashley gave statements together. Emotional but detailed. Years of observed behavior. Today's escalation. Their own complicity through silence. "You're not complicit anymore," Jordan told them. "You're witnesses for accountability." Kyle gave his statement alone, visibly shaken, admitted hearing inappropriate comments over years, regretted not reporting them sooner, committed to testifying at any proceedings, passenger after passenger, each adding pieces to the comprehensive record. By 2 a.m. London time, investigators had 47 witness statements, 12 video recordings, 4 audio files, 1 destroyed federal ID, and 1 very thorough FBI incident report. Strand reviewed the collection. "This is bulletproof." Jordan nodded. "Good. Because I want to make sure no one can dismiss this. No one can explain it away. No one can claim it was a misunderstanding. No one will. I promise you that." The room began to empty. Witnesses released to continue their travels. Some stayed to offer final support to Jordan. Bernard shook her hand. "If you need anything, call me. I mean it. I will." "Thank you." Diana hugged her. "I'll be in touch about civil proceedings. We're going to make this matter." "I know we will." Mia took a selfie with Jordan with permission. Posted it with the caption, "Justice has a face. Her name is Special Agent Jordan Blake." And she just changed everything. James promised his follow-up article would honor her story properly. Rosa and Ashley lingered last. "We're transferring to different routes," Rosa said. "We don't want to fly with Liberty Sky anymore. Not after this." "I understand. But we'll testify. Whenever you need us." "Thank you, both of you." They left. And finally Jordan was alone with Strand. "Ready for the hotel?" he asked. "We have a secure location set up. Actually, I need to complete my original mission first. I'm supposed to brief MI6 at 0900. Strand blinked. "After everything tonight, you're still doing the briefing." "That's why I'm here. This incident doesn't change the importance of the intelligence." "You're remarkable, Agent Blake. I'm doing my job. Both jobs. FBI agent first, victim of discrimination second. Most people would prioritize the other way. I'm not most people." Strand smiled. "No, you're definitely not." The news cycle exploded. BBC led with the story. FBI agent reveals badge after pilot destroys ID in discrimination incident. CNN Black. FBI agent harassed on flight takes command of aircraft. NBC Liberty Sky pilot fired after attacking federal agent. The Guardian viral video shows pilot's racial bias. Agent's powerful response. Al Jazeera. When flying while black meets federal authority. How one agent changed aviation. Liberty Sky's CEO gave a press conference, visibly shaken. "Captain Holloway has been terminated. We are implementing immediate policy changes. Mandatory bias training for all personnel. Independent oversight. Zero tolerance." The stock stabilized after the announcement, but the damage was done. FAA issued a statement. Captain Derek Holloway's pilot license has been revoked. Investigation ongoing. Additional administrative penalties pending. Federal prosecutors announced charges: 1 count destruction of federal property, 1 count interference with a federal agent. Trial date to be set. Holloway's attorney gave a brief statement. "My client regrets his actions and is cooperating with investigators. No apology, no acknowledgement of racial bias, just regret." Rosa Delgado appeared on morning shows, told her story, became a voice for service workers who witnessed discrimination. Ashley Morrison wrote an op-ed for the New York Times, "I stayed silent too long, how I failed a passenger and found my voice." Kyle Brennan submitted formal complaints about Holloway's pattern of behavior, requested reassignment, got promoted to captain at a different airline that valued his integrity. Bernard Cross published a legal analysis in a law journal, Federal Authority Meets Civil Rights, Blake versus Holloway and Aviation Discrimination. Diana Wu filed a landmark civil rights lawsuit, Jordan Blake versus Liberty Sky Airlines and Derek Holloway, seeking policy reform and damages, and James Lockhart won a journalism award for his coverage. His article became required reading in civil rights law classes. The ripples spread 3 months later. Liberty Sky settled with Jordan Blake for an undisclosed sum. But money was never the point. The settlement agreement included mandatory provisions that changed everything. Every Liberty Sky pilot now underwent bias training every 6 months. Not video modules they could skip through, but intensive workshops with real scenarios, real accountability, and real consequences for failure. Flight crews received updated protocols. Any discrimination complaint triggered immediate investigation, and passengers gained direct access to federal authorities through an onboard hotline. The changes spread beyond Liberty Sky. The FAA implemented industry-wide reforms. Airlines tracked discrimination incidents in a federal database accessible to civil rights organizations. Crew members who witnessed bias and stayed silent faced penalties. Passengers received clear information about their rights and how to report violations. Captain Derek Holloway never flew commercially again. His license revocation became permanent after his federal conviction. He pleaded guilty to destruction of government property, received 2 years probation, 300 hours of community service, and a permanent criminal record. The civil lawsuit judgment against him personally ran into 6 figures. His pension was garnished to pay it. Rosa Delgado became the youngest lead flight attendant in Liberty Sky history. She launched a mentorship program for junior crew members, teaching them to speak up when they witnessed injustice. Ashley Morrison moved to the training department, developing the new bias protocols that every employee now completed. Kyle Brennan captained his first international flight 6 weeks after the incident with Rosa as his lead attendant. They flew together often, 2 people who'd found their courage and refused to lose it again. Jordan returned to work after her 2-week administrative leave. She completed the London briefing 3 days late, but the intelligence she delivered helped prevent 2 planned attacks. Her supervisors commended her restraint and professionalism. She received no medal, no promotion, no public ceremony within the FBI. Just a quiet note from Director Rodriguez. This is what the badge stands for. Thank you. But the impact spread far beyond one agent, one airline, one flight. Every time a black woman boarded a plane after March 12, 2026, she carried a small ember of hope that maybe, just maybe, she wouldn't have to prove she belonged. Every time a flight attendant witnessed something wrong, they remembered Rosa's refusal and found strength to speak. And every time someone with power considered misusing it, they remembered the 47 witnesses who'd said enough and meant it. Justice doesn't end discrimination overnight, but it plants seeds. And 3 months after Jordan Blake stood and revealed her badge, those seeds grew into something stronger than any one person, any one incident, any one moment could contain. If you believe respect isn't earned by a badge but owed to every human being, share this story. If you think courage means standing up even when your voice shakes, leave a comment telling me about a time you spoke up or wish you had. And if you want to see more stories where accountability wins and dignity matters, hit that subscribe button. The truth is, we're all passengers on this journey together, and we all get to decide whether we sit in silence or stand for what's right. Speak up when silence costs too much.